Hello, everyone. Happy Coronavirus 2020 and happy Easter at the same time. It's wonderful, ain't it? Um, Easter is literally in, well, for me, what time it is for me, it's going to literally be in 13 minutes, right? Yeehaw. Anyway, let's take a look at OVH's servers. You're going to notice localization United States. I'm going to kill that. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop down and see that we've got Rise 4 here as the first 2 times option. So what I'm mainly looking for is just 2 times processors by processor setup, and we have that with the Rise 4. Notice public network from 500 megabits per second is there. We've got 128 gigs of RAM and 16 core, 32 thread, fairly solid processor. They've got some disk options here for you. You can do NVMe. I think I opted for the hard disk drive when I more than likely probably should get a solid state drive set up somehow somewhere. I think things would just run a little bit faster, like in terms of installs and just overall, better stability with the solid state drives. But anyway, we've got Rise 4 as probably the absolute best deal. I don't know if this is the right website that I went through to get the deal I did, but somehow I think I went through like CA OVH something or other or whatever. And basically going through getting the Canadian server, I was able to configure this server with a 2-year commitment, I believe. And that significantly dropped the monthly pricing down. So it definitely gave me a good discount, and it waived setup fees. This is a great server for virtualization. I highly recommend it. And if you don't do that, I would recommend your next step up is going to be this one. But it probably more than likely is a little bit overkill if you're not actually building out some infrastructure. So let's just take a look here at what they're talking about. It does say it's particularly well adapted to VMware virtualization environments. And you could also have containerization within, such as Docker. Now, taking a look, you can see the storage type. We've got this. They also have the 960 gig SSD, so you could go that route. They've got burst 2 gigs per second. And you can really just control a lot of what all you can do with your server. But anyway, what I'm going to be talking more about today is how I'm setting up my Rise 4, and I just wanted to go over some of the options. So they already talk about in the description VMware, so they're more so talking like VMware ESXi, I would assume, and then they've also got mention here of Hyper-V. So Microsoft, of course, has their own virtualization solution, which, by the way, it is free. I did not realize that, but Hyper-V Server is an operating system that is free. You get in with remote desktop, but as soon as you get in, you have a console, a command prompt window that you're shown, and you don't have your beautiful interface. So if you're used to Windows Server, where you get your interface with your start menu and all that stuff and your server manager, it's not as pretty, right? But on the bright side, if you configure things correctly over on your client side where you're controlling the server, you can install something turning on Windows features called Hyper-V Manager, and I'm believing that's allowing people to remote into their Hyper-V server and manage their servers that way. So ideally, that's what I'm thinking about configuring and setting that all up, and then more than likely, I'm probably going to disable remote desktop on the machine, and then maybe make it so there's a script or something I can call only on one of my virtual systems to then re-enable remote desktop. So I know that's kind of a crazy idea, possibly, I don't know, but I'm just thinking of a way to set this up securely without putting myself at risk of getting boned by a hacker on the internet. So I don't know, I'm still planning things out and just like overall orchestrating the structure of my security posture. I want to have a good solid stance. This is going to be a public facing internet system. So I need to have maybe like a website where I go in and I authenticate to, and then I can access my Hyper-V Manager or, the ports required. I'm figuring it out, and when I find a good solution to operate with my Windows server that I trust, like doing some 2-factor authentication web panel thing where I click a button and it's like, here you go, you've been firewall whitelisted, I'll let you know. I'll follow up with you on that in a future video. But KVM and Proxmox also work. Proxmox is open source and has like a community edition. I just really like Hyper-V for it being, it's just looking like the best option with the most simplicity, right? And with all the features there for you to work with. Whereas all the other solutions, I mean, VMware and Proxmox have some sort of paid crap going on. Hyper-V seems to be free from what I know. And then KVM is just like a good solution if you want to get knees deep in configs and screw around, right? So, and Proxmox kind of the same way. I feel like VMware, Proxmox, KVM is like flying a UFO spaceship, alien ship, shuttle, whatever, where Hyper-V is just like, it's a Windows solution, or I mean, it's a Microsoft solution, and you can operate it from within a Windows environment. It's super, super damn easy. Cannot find a simpler solution, in my opinion. So I'm just going to kind of do some trial and error with all these, which I've already screwed with Proxmox and honestly broke it like at least 7 times now, getting pissed off, switching to Hyper-V for the time being. I have reviewed KVM. I've worked around with VMware ESXi some. And overall, working with Proxmox, VMware ESXi, looking into KVM, like WTF, mate, and then Hyper-V is just like, okay, cool, that seems to work good. So I don't know if I'm speaking out of full-on experience because I've not fully deployed on Hyper-V, and I'm sure maybe in the future everything will break sideways and I'll figure out that, hey, maybe it does suck. But for the time being, I am opting for Hyper-V. Let's really quick read some reviews before I jump my my lifeboat in. Okay, let's take a quick peek here. Hyper-V Pros. You can deploy new virtual servers in minutes. Maintenance does not result in downtime. Simple live migrations. Easy backups. Comprehensive security through Windows Active Directory. It's lower priced. Hyper-V Cons. Supports a limited number of guest OS choices. See here for a list. Requires Windows OS upgrades during product lifetime. Poor or missing support for Remote FX and service templates in System Center Virtual Machine Manager 2012 R2. Okay, so vSphere Pros. Now, I was thinking ESXi, but they're talking vSphere here, which I think they're pretty damn close. Anyways, intuitive use, high-quality support available, maybe an optimal fit for major enterprises, broad OS support, offers access to governance capabilities, transparent page sharing, offers higher guests per host, 512 versus 384. Here's some cons. Free and trial versions do not offer full functionality. That was the main con for me. That's why I will not be using VMware. Reported that there's a steep learning curve. Also why I don't want to use this. These 2 cons are big enough for me to say, screw VMware. I'm going to go with Hyper-V, right? So if Hyper-V doesn't work out, I'm probably going to be looking at the KVM or Proxmox solutions. But let's go ahead and compare Hyper-V to Proxmox. Okay, so what we're looking at here is overall, Proxmox VE server has a 9.7 score, whereas Hyper-V server has a 7.8. Now, here's the list of pros. So easy to use management interface, distributed storage, virtualizing different platforms. Over here, I see checkpoints are easiest in Hyper-V. You can create them on live systems, restore systems to a previous checkpoint in seconds. So let's say that all of a sudden you get hacked and you're like, oh crap, click checkpoint, restores back, and you're good to go. That sounds nice to me. So then cons. For me, checkpoints have been a sore spot over the years. These are system snapshots where you can roll back the system to a previous point in time if you encounter issues, but I'm using Server 2016 and haven't tried them in this version, but earlier versions created all sorts of issues if you ran into a scenario where you needed to recover a VM. I don't use these, instead relying on VM backups. Moving VMs from one server to another could be easier. To be clear, I'm not talking about replica, but actual VM migration. Cheap and easy is the name of the game. It has great support, doesn't require additional licenses. It works the same. Several options are available for storage. The clustered built-in network storage needs to be installed via the console or SSH. Other options like ISCSI do not support host migration. Okay, let's look at something else real quick. Okay, so let's check out Hyper-V sucks. So we've got, does anyone actually use Hyper-V by choice? Or is it because it's included? I use Hyper-V for my home lab / prod. It's great and offers some nice storage options for my single hyper-converged node. What do you use for deduplication? Is that enough storage space? I think I have REFS on a 4 times 2 terabyte array. I use for recording TV. It's been with me since Windows 8.1 days and survived my several upgrades. I'm actually really surprised it's lived so long. I am curious why you're even thinking of using Hyper-V if you don't particularly care about virtualization platform. Install Proxmox, virtualize the DC, go from there. So, I mean, this is what this guy's saying. I had not considered this option. Thanks for the tip. You can do pretty much everything with PowerShell, which is now supported on Linux, I believe. You can also install the Honolulu package, which gives a web-based management platform. +1 for Project Honolulu. It can't yet fully replace Server Manager and all the MMC-based tools, but it's coming along nicely. Ooh, I'll have to look into Honolulu. Thanks. I have PowerShell for Linux, and it's painfully crippled. Missing library. I switched from ESXi to Hyper-V at home. Very pleased. I also happen to load the VMware web client. Unfortunately, you will need Windows to manage it. Watch out for that edge. Weird that a company would want to make money. Love using Hyper-V on my servers. I snap each server into my desktop's manager and can do everything from it. What's snap? Do you mean RDP? Okay, screw that. I'm going. I've done full hyper-converged deployments in my lab of Proxmox plus Ceph, Zen Server, vSAN plus ESXi, and Hyper-V, and can honestly say that my Hyper-V choice is the best choice. Project Honolulu is very promising for quick management tasks without PowerShell. Used it, prefer KVM for its NIX base. I don't feel knowledge enough to have a secure environment for host, though. I used Hyper-V for ages. However, I finally switched to ESXi in my home lab because I run into it 95% of the time working with clients. Having 5 NFR core licenses of Enterprise Plus helps too, so I can test out almost all the stuff. All right. My first certification choice was Microsoft, so it made sense to use Hyper-V. I plan on making an acquaintance with VMware eventually because it is both what is used at the company I work for and a lot of other companies as well. Everything said, I am happy with Hyper-V. It was incredibly simple to set up, and I've yet to have issues with it. So that said, my use case, it was relatively simple. I really like the way Hyper-V is implemented in Windows. It allows me to use the host OS as a file server using storage spaces and create all the VMs that use the files on the SS volume. It all sounds normal at first, but Hyper-V actually is a Tier 1 hypervisor, which means that it is essentially a bare metal hypervisor where the host OS is accessing the resources at the same time levels as the VMs. This way, the VMs aren't feeding on the scraps like in a Tier 2 setup. I find it cool, convenient, and free. Very cool. So this is what I'm looking for. Cool, convenient, and free. Thanks, Crude Tech. Let's go ahead and check out Proxmox and see what the heck's going on there. Okay, I love Reddit because people on Reddit are very harsh and give you the truth. Switched to ESXi 6.7 from Proxmox, and it sucks. I just wanted to say that ESXi sucks compared to Proxmox. Yes, doing hardware pass-through is more straightforward, but I cannot even load a graphics driver for GTX 660 without having a snapshot as it won't boot and just hangs. Okay, let's scroll down and figure out what's going on. Of course it does. ESXi does not have your particular use case in mind for its huge development dollars, and has even gone so far as to cut the team putting out VMware Workstation. I run ESXi in my lab because it provides a useful test bed to learn and explore and then use those skills at work. But if I was running a single badass gaming computer and I wanted to also run a few VMs on the side with it, Proxmox would be an easy decision for me. Yeah, we use it at work too. I thought it would be good to try for Linux gaming. Rig with GPU pass-through did not work as I expected. Check the VMware HCL hardware compatibility list before any install. Sorry you had to find out the hard way. True, but I should have known. Left a bad taste in my mouth for VMware. Why did you switch? Why do you need pass-through? Because that is what I have to use, lol. Okay, so has been crappy for a while, especially for home use. Home use isn't exactly their market. Yep, Linux just working is their use case. If you don't mind Googling commands and reading forums for the more complex uses, there you go. So this person's actually saying Proxmox is better than ESXi, apparently. Okay, so what else sucks about Proxmox? Wow, that's harsh. I definitely want to read this. Proxmox team, go bleep yourselves. Now, I'm sure that I'll receive a lot of flack for this, but hear me out, please. I've tried Proxmox and was quite pleased with its web UI, but I hate how much it locks me into their own little ecosystem, right? I want to use BTRFS on my drives. Why is this impossible, yet the hack that is ZOL is your obvious alternative, an alternative wherein I can't even compile and run my own kernel because then ZOL suddenly fails. And you don't tell me to compile your stock config, or don't tell me to do that when it's well over 15 gigs large in your source tree. Proxmox is literally the Mac OS of Linux distributions, which was even more so made clear by me being called an idiot by possibly wanting to run the same on the PVE host, because why on earth would sysadmins want to? Why on earth would sysadmins be competent for wanting to? You know what? I'll just convert those Proxmox servers to Arch and say bleep you to all the bells and whistles that's Proxmox's web UI, because at least Arch allows me to make my own bleeping choices limited only by what's supported by the Linux operating system. Perhaps Proxmox will consider BTRFS stable in 2021, because, you know, despite it being stable today in 2018, Debian and Proxmox alike lived 3 years in the past, i.e. 2015. I hate the Debian ecosystems because of that, but boy, do I hate Proxmox even more so. Bloody bleeping piece of bleep it is. Dude, I don't know who you are, but I love you because you're awesome. That's why. I just feel like mentioning license costs for PVE are exactly zero. You only pay for support. Not sure if we qualify as big, but we run 315 CentOS 7 VMs across 4 DL 380 Gen 6 front ends. This is a pretty tough question as workloads can vary so drastically in environments. Thanks for the intel. Could you tell me about the specs? Blah, blah, blah. At what point begins large scale? Is a 10 node cluster with dual CPU and 128 gig RAM or more large scale? Amount of VMs to node/RAM is very specific and must be sized to your environment. I don't mean to hijack this thread, but are you Mesos nodes virtual machines? What is blah blah blah? Okay, dude, I don't know what the heck is going on here. I'm lost. This form sucks. Someone's saying over it and Red Hat use Gluster. Me too. Screw y'all. I'm going back. Proxmox's website and their form is trash. So what is your preferred server hypervisor and why? Let's jump into this boat here. So VMware ESXi is up there in the top. Microsoft Hyper-V is up there along the top. So there's 27 people voted for VMware ESXi. 8 people voted Microsoft Hyper-V. 3 people voted Proxmox. 3 people voted Zen Server. KVM, 2 different. Please tell me an answer. So I'm assuming that primarily on Linux Tech Tips, you've got a lot of... I don't know. I don't want to offend anyone, but I will say that this is probably a good order in which to try things. Honestly, this is the best order in which to try things. Like, aside from that one guy that was like, yeah, yo, dude, I'm just going to run everything on Arch, screw all you. That's kind of an awesome idea. Just like spin up an Arch server and then maybe have like a web UI that launches a bunch of Dockers. I don't. That's kind of neat. I don't know, man. It's so tough to choose this stuff. And like, so I feel like that's why this video is 20 minutes long and I've still not made a decision. Like, I'm literally rocking back and forth here thinking, do I go Proxmox VE and like call it a day? Do I go VMware ESXi? And I'm like, yeehaw. And, you know, but then, because they do have free, but their free is limited and I don't like being limited. Like, I don't want to be in a little box, right? Like, it's like, yo, dude, I'm going to go get VMware ESXi, the free one, and be a boss. Oh, wait, I don't even have access to certain features. And then it tells me you don't have a valid license in Proxmox every time I launch it. There's a way to disable that, but then like I feel like a freaking criminal breaking software from alerting you, which, you know, it's not probably. I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, I'm sick and tired of getting notices. So it's like Proxmox is freeware that comes with advertising every time you sign into your damn panel. You log in and it's like, boom, you do not have a valid subscription license. Screw yourself. And it's like, no, Proxmox, screw yourself. VMware ESXi is free, but like I said, it's limited. Microsoft Hyper-V just works. And let me show you something cool. Okay, so we're looking at turn Windows features on or off. I'm just going to launch this up, and we're going to pop open Hyper-V, and we can see that the Hyper-V platform here, this allows you to run Hyper-V services in the Hypervisor. I don't want that. All I really want is the Hyper-V GUI management tools and the Hyper-V module for Windows PowerShell. I'm going to tick this box. We're going to get those things. We're going to click OK. Cool thing, this does not even require a reboot of the machine it's being installed to. So that's a cool thing. Configuring wise, this is so straightforward and easy. I cannot believe how easy it is. So, I mean, anyway, long story short, picking out a hypervisor, picking out a host, and getting things all set is like, it's really painful, and it's made my brain hurt a little bit. I'm sitting here sipping tea and probably catching coronavirus. Just kidding, probably not, because I'm staying inside. But let's go ahead and check out Hyper-V. Boom. As soon as we get it, it's all set to go. We've even got Hyper-V Quick Create, but I'm going to launch up Hyper-V Manager, and we're going to notice something really cool here. You go to File, or I'm sorry, Action, or if you right-click here, so you get to connect to server this way by right-clicking this, or you go to Action and connect to server. And then we're going to do another computer, right? So what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to have a Hyper-V user, and we're going to get into a remote host, and that host is going to be on our OVH system, right? And then we're going to talk a little bit about IP blocks and assigning virtual MAC addresses, so the VMAX can then be set up on the hosts, or not the hosts, oh my gosh, the guest hosts, which are the systems that we have inside of our VM. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look really quick at the server and how that's all set up inside of OVH. So right here, I'm going to sign into caovh.com because that's how mine is set up, but yours might be a little bit different. So hold on. Okay, my beautiful girlfriend called me. I love her so dearly. She really is the sparkle in my eye. She gives my heart the most joy in the entire darn world. I am so gosh darn blessed to have my girlfriend in my life. My mother is also the best mother in the entire world. To me, she is anyway. But anyway, let's go ahead and I'm going to get signed into my account. I don't want to show you my email. I'll tell you my password is pretty hard, and I have two-factor authentication. You should too. Just so you know I'm not lying, here's my two-factor authentication code prompt. And by the way, World Health Organization mentions that there is no evidence that cloth masks work. So those people making the silly, ridiculous cloth masks, there is no science behind them. Also, vitamin C herbal tea, I find that to be the most refreshing way to get my daily value vitamin C is a nice sip of some lemon tea. Go ahead and get yourself some I Love Lemon vitamin C supplement tea if you want to. You don't have to. But you know what? I'm going to open up my Duo mobile app that I use for free because it's not for business purposes. This is all just for fun, man. But anyway, I just love the Duo interface. So by far my favorite thing to be using. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's stop showing you my key here because I don't know who's watching this and what magic tricks people can do nowadays. Okay, so when you log in, this is kind of what you see. Now, obviously, you're not going to see Welcome to Donkey Kong. I did press F12 and do some changes, so you guys don't see as much information as would normally be shown. Like, you don't see my credit card last four. That would be dumb. You don't see order number. You don't see my name. That's not your business. But we're going to click server up here. So go ahead and click a root. And then you will be looking over on the left for dedicated servers. Once you've clicked server, you're going to click that. And then you're going to find your server name. Now, mine I named Windows like incorrectly. Yeah, on purpose. But you can choose something else, right? I mean... Anyway, go ahead and just click your server that you recently bought or purchased, whatever, you know, that's going to be used for virtualization. Okay, so this is my server here, and I just wanted to show you, in case you've not selected a system, you can click this install. Then from here, I'm gonna go ahead and click on install from an OVH template. Next. Now, I just want to show you something. So type of OSs, you can drop down ready to use GUI, and you have CentOS with Solus VM, you have XenServer, CoreOS, cPanel, ISP config, Linux Plus Onyx, Proxmox VE6, VMware ESXi, got VPS Proxmox VE5 with ZFS, and Ubuntu desktop Xenial. So I mean, there's XFCE plus X2Go, but I don't really want this. I want to go back to basic, and we can see they have FreeBSD, ZFS root. They have Arch Linux 2018 auto installer, latest version, CentOS, a bunch of CentOS basically, Cloud Linux, Debian, different versions, Fedora, Gentoo, OpenSUSE, Ubuntu server. So there's those options, right? They also, of course, we already went over BSD. They have Windows server options, and under here you have Windows Hyper-V Server 2019, Windows Hyper-V Server 2016, 2012 R2, and just 2012. I personally think 2019 is a good choice just because it's latest. It's probably not going to lose support for some time, I would imagine. It's going to just be the most modern version, so I'm assuming it's going to have the latest feature sets. So when the next version of Windows comes out, I'm guessing it's going to have high compatibility with the latest feature sets. Just a guess, not a wizard here or anything, but I would probably go with the latest two versions. That would be either 2016 or 2019. You might go with 2016 if you're a little cautious. I'm going to go with 2019. But here it says the OS you selected does not offer the virtual desktop feature. If needed, please select another license. No other operating systems available. Please go to the licenses section of the OVH control panel. You can ignore this warning. That's totally fine. What we're gonna do though is we're gonna opt for this, either this or this. In my opinion, I love Hyper-V, so that's why I'm going this route. Anyways, we're going to go next. And from here, we're just going to go ahead and put this on the main system. We've got RAID 1. That's how that guy looks. If we go with the 2, that gives us that RAID 1. And I would opt to go that way, right?